Vladimir Putin's Great Ocean Plan, which he has been working on for years, has now come to an end. The cat-and-mouse game quietly played in the North Atlantic has now turned into a hunt. For years, Russian nuclear submarines have been threatening the security of Europe and America by slipping through the famous gap between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK, known as the GIUK Gap. These submarines, carrying hypersonic Zircon missiles and nuclear-tipped Bulava missiles, created a second strike capability that could hit all Western capitals, from Washington to London, Paris to Berlin, undetected. Moscow's move was not just a show of force. It also meant bringing to the Atlantic the capacity to blind the West in a crisis by cutting off the internet, energy, and communications infrastructure at its source. This was NATO's existential nightmare at sea. But today, that strategic corridor is cut off. The UK and Norway have joined forces, and they have sealed this gateway by signing the most comprehensive and aggressive naval defense pact in their history. The operation's codename, LUNNA HOUSE. This is not a piece of paper signed with diplomatic courtesy. It is a military encirclement operation that traps Russia's northern fleet in its own icy waters and cancels its tickets to the Atlantic. Now, it's not just ships in the equation. Artificial intelligence-powered sensors placed on the ocean floor, P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft in the sky, and new-generation Type 26 frigates patrolling the sea. Now the North Sea has ceased to be an operational area for the Russian Navy and has turned into a cell where every movement is monitored and recorded with no escape. So why did NATO press the button now, at this very moment? The answer to this question lies not in diplomatic corridors or at the negotiating table, but in that critical incident in the grey waters off Scotland that fundamentally changed the rules of military engagement. The reason for the hasty formation of this massive alliance between the UK and Norway is that Moscow's actions in the field have now crossed the line from espionage to direct threat. Last month, the YANTAR, one of the Russian Navy's most mysterious ships, was tracking British elements sailing in international waters off the coast of Scotland.
As I speak, a Russian spy ship, the YANTAR, is on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland, having entered the UK's wider waters over the last few weeks.
Classified on paper as an ocean research vessel, the YANTAR was, in reality, a floating intelligence platform designed to map underwater infrastructure, affiliated with Russia's GUK, Main Directorate for Deep Sea Research. However, this time the YANTAR did not just monitor, it crossed the line. The vessel attempted to blind and endanger the flight safety of the pilots of the British Royal Air Force, RAF, P-8 Poseidon aircraft, following it by directing high-powered military laser systems at them. This action constituted a physical intervention attempt against a NATO aircraft sailing in international waters and was proof of how dangerous the grey zone war had become. This laser attack actually demonstrated the tactical vulnerability of the Russian Navy, not its strength. It was an aggressive response, a cornered cat reflex, from elements that could not escape the West's surveillance network and had been exposed. The response from UK Defence Secretary John Healey to this incident signalled the dawn of a new era. Healey made this historic warning in mid-November before the cameras. "We see you, and we are ready to respond." This statement declared the end of the diplomatic condemnation era and the beginning of the active prevention era. The most concrete proof of the West's determination came just a few weeks before this warning. On October 2nd, the French Navy raided and seized the tanker Boracay, suspected of launching the drones that paralyzed Copenhagen Airport and belonging to the Russian Shadow Fleet in international waters with special forces. NATO has deciphered Russia's grey zone tactics and moved to the strike phase. The LUNNA HOUSE alliance between the UK and Norway is the institutionalized form of this strike order. However, the threat facing the UK and Norway is not just a research vessel equipped with lasers. Beneath the water lies a much larger, silent, and deadly leviathan. Because the real target of this alliance is not the ships on the surface of the water, but the silent killers in the depths. The force we face is not rusty Soviet relics. It is a highly sophisticated underwater fleet, modernized by Russia over the past 20 years, with a large portion of its defense budget. The heart of this threat beats within the Arctic Circle, on the Kola Peninsula near Murmansk. The naval bases of Gadjiyevo, Olenya, and Severomorsk are Russia's bastion, its stronghold. And the greatest threat emanating from this stronghold, the Yasen M class, NATO code Severodvinsk, nuclear attack submarines. These new generation submarines, bearing names such as Kazan, Novosibirsk, and Krasnoyarsk, are known for their low acoustic signatures, silence. Even US Navy officials report that the Yasen M class is extremely difficult to detect in the depths of the ocean and is on par with Western technology. The primary mission of these submarines is to enter the Atlantic undetected and target critical NATO objectives using their 3 M54 caliber and 3 M22 Zircon missiles. However, the threat is not limited to kinetic weapons. Russia's GUGI, a special unit independent of the Defense Ministry, manages massive motherships like the Belgorod and mini-submarines capable of deep dives. This unit's mission is to sabotage the West's communications and energy infrastructure by targeting fiber optic cables and energy pipelines on the ocean floor. This is the leviathan that Britain and Norway are facing. If these submarines cross the GIUK Line, finding them in the vastness of the ocean is nearly impossible. That's why the strategy changed. Instead of searching for them in the ocean, the goal is to stop them before they even leave port. An ordinary patrol mission was not enough to stop this massive threat. A historic alliance and a wall of steel were needed. This is where LUNNA House comes in. The mechanism established to stop this leviathan is the most integrated maritime defense structure Northern Europe has ever seen. The LUNNA House Agreement, signed by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his Norwegian counterpart Jonas Gahr Støre, operationally merged the two countries' navies into a single entity. The name of this agreement carries a historical message. LUNNA House was the centre of operations for the Norwegian resistance from the Shetland Islands in the UK during World War II. Today, the message remains the same: joint defence against a common threat in the North Sea. Operational boundaries in the North Sea have now been lifted. The navies of the two NATO members will operate a joint fleet consisting of British-built Type 26 frigates under an integrated chain of command. Norway is strengthening this defence line by procuring 5 Type 26 frigates from the UK as part of its naval modernisation programme. A total of at least 13 modern anti-submarine warfare vessels will form a continuous wall from the Barents Sea to Iceland. The backbone of this fleet, the Type 26 frigate, is a floating submarine hunter. Its most critical feature is its acoustic stealth. The ship's design minimizes engine and machinery noise, making it difficult for enemy submarines to detect. The BAE Systems produced Artisan 3D radar and Type 2087 towed sonar on board are sensitive enough to detect even the smallest anomalies underwater. Norway's role in this equation is vital. The Barents Sea, the gateway for Russia's northern fleet, is of direct interest to Norway. With this agreement, the British Royal Marines are reinforcing the defence of the northern flank from land by intensifying their sub-zero combat training in Norway's challenging terrain and freezing cold. However, ships are only the hammer of this defence line. The real revolution, which will take away the stealth advantage of Russian submarines, lies in silent and autonomous technologies. If the Type 26 frigates are the muscle of this defence, the Atlantic Bastion programme is its brain. The UK has announced this new technological doctrine to the world, which will render Russia's multi-billion-dollar submarine investments ineffective. The aim of this programme is to turn the ocean into a transparent area where the Russians cannot hide. The most cunning and effective player in the system is the SG-1 Fathom. This device, a joint product of German and British engineering, is a submarine glider resembling a winged torpedo. It has no engine. It can glide silently for months using the ocean's natural currents and the buoyancy of water. It leaves no acoustic trace. It only listens. This is technological asymmetry. On one side, a massive nuclear-powered submarine. On the other, thousands of tiny sensors hidden between the ocean's thermal layers, impossible to detect. When these gliders make contact, they send their coordinates to the surface via satellite. And there's more. As part of the seabed sentry concept, the UK has deployed an extra-large unmanned submarine called Excalibur, which is 12 meters long and weighs 19 tons. These autonomous vehicles are specifically tasked with protecting undersea cables. When Russian GUI units attempt to interfere with a cable, they will encounter not a manned vessel, but a robotic defense line on 24/7 watch. So, what happens when a sensor detects a threat? How do technology and firepower combine in the field? This is how NATO's prevention chain works. This technology and these ships create a flawless kill chain in the field. The scenario works as follows. The moment a Russian submarine dives into the Barents Sea from under the ice, sensors on the ocean floor or patrolling SG-1 Fathom gliders detect acoustic anomalies. Artificial intelligence algorithms filter this sound from the ocean's natural noise, whales, seismic activity, and send an unidentified contact signal. This signal reaches the RAF Lossiemouth Command Centre in Scotland within seconds. From there, P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft take off and head for the target area. The P-8s drop sonobuoys, listening buoys onto the water to pinpoint the location of the contact. Once the submarine's position is clear, the nearest Type 26 frigate moves into the area. The Type 26 approaches the target in silent running mode and locks on with its own active sonar. Norway's shore-based naval strike missile batteries and Stingray torpedoes on ships are put on standby. At this point, the surprise effect for the Russian submarine is lost. A submarine whose secrecy has been compromised has lost its strategic value. This northern wall aims to deter Russia's infiltration attempts before they even begin. What is the result of this military and technological encirclement? What does this move mean for Europe's future? This technological encirclement and military integration is not just a naval maneuver, but a rebuilding of Europe's security architecture. Following the strategic control of the Baltic Sea, the North Sea is now also transforming from a permeable region into a high-security shield with the LUNNA HOUSE PACT. The neutralization of Russia's ocean plan is a serious strategic loss for Moscow. Russia's hybrid warfare doctrine was based on threatening the West's energy and communication lines in times of crisis to extract political concessions. However, with the closure of the GIUK gap, Greenland, Iceland, UK, this card has been taken out of its hand. The £350 billion undersea infrastructure connecting the UK and Norway, which carries more than 30% of Europe's energy, is now secured behind the Atlantic Bastion shield. Putin's energy card and communication disruption threats have been rendered useless thanks to this digital wall under the water. Russia has been pushed into a position with restricted access to the open seas and fewer strategic options. The grey zone period, during which Vladimir Putin tested the West's resolve, has ended, having collided with Europe's united will and technological superiority. Integrated defense systems have replaced rusty tankers and provocative maneuvers. A new era has begun in the north, and in this era, the initiative is now in NATO's hands. To follow this great power struggle in the world's seas, the strategic chess game unfolding beneath the surface, and the shifting global balances moment by moment, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. See you in the next strategic analysis.